Welcome, guys. Today I decided to do something a little different and do a quick tutorial for or guide for Chaos Dwarfs. I've kind of been following a little bit on forums and just other people playing the game. Seems like a lot of people having a hard time with Chaos Dwarfs economy and just overall trying to figure them out. So just a little overview of this faction. So, with Chaos Dwarves, you have more than just your treasury or your gold. You also have raw materials that you have to produce, and you have to produce armament. And then you also have influence. So you have three additional resources that you got to deal with. And gold is self-explanatory. It's just like any other resource we have in Warhammer. Now with raw materials, when you capture settlements, the way to produce them is you have to build outposts. Then you can build mine shafts that will generate even more raw materials. And so outposts are pretty much, that's all that they serve for, is you get the raw materials and then you have like a building that can generate a little bit of gold, and then build it for control. And you can get also just like a garrison upgrade and hobgoblins recruitment buildings. So that's it, that's simple as that. And then to produce armaments, you want to build factories. That's a second type of buildings you can have. They produce pretty much same thing, just gold and more influence, but they allow you to build buildings that produce armaments, inexpensive raw materials. So as you produce armaments, you can see that it says armaments 50 per turn, and then raw materials minus 150 per turn. So to make armaments, you have to use raw materials. So after doing some personal campaigns on my own time outside of stream, I found the easiest way, or I guess the best way for me at least. The way I do it is you capture one province and you convert it all basically in your fact or outpost province, and then second one you capture, you make it a factory province, and then it's kind of like rinse and repeat. You capture next one, next province you capture, you convert it to the outpost, and then next one is in factory. Now I experimented with some like this one. I have it as a one place as a outpost, and then the other one's a factory. But it seems like the most effective way to maximize the resources is focusing one province for one per material. So like one for raw material, one for armaments. So with that said, what do you do with those resources? So raw materials, they can help you build certain buildings. So like, let's say for this city, to upgrade it to the highest level of Tower of Hashat, I have to use 3,375 raw materials. So instead of gold, you use the raw materials on that. And same thing goes for some of the certain buildings. Like this one uses gold, so you don't need raw materials for that one. Also, another resource, actually, I forgot there's technically 4 resources, is labor. So labor, you produce labor by basically doing battles, winning battles, and you also produce them by doing convoys. Convoys is big in this game, or in this DLC, and for Chaos Dwarfs faction. It's kind of a little bit similar to Grand Cafe, right? Except you kind of have a little bit more kind of due to resources, the different types of resources. You get to choose a little bit differently, because you can choose between sending them and spending basically 1,000 gold. Let's say, for example, this place, right? I spent 1,000 gold, right, from my own treasury, and in return I'll get 387 labor. Then on my this convoy, that's still in process, I'll exchange 500 armaments to get 897 labor. So pretty sweet, and it's very important to keep them active. So I have like 4 of them total right now, but 2 of them are on cooldown, but I'll definitely activate them as they get off the cooldown. Without running convoys is going to get very difficult keeping up with labor force, and you definitely need labor force to keep running your cities. And that brings us to then labor economy window. So this is a window where you're probably going to spend a lot of time on. So the way I mean, it might look complicated, but once you kind of start messing around with first couple provinces, it gets really easy. Basically, right here where it says labor and workload, means is how much you need labor to keep up with 100% efficiency, right? So like, let's say over here in the Wolflands, we have 662 labors out of 600 workloads. So we're working at 100% efficiency and 20% above. So same thing goes for the rest of them. Now you can move them around. Like, let's say I don't have a good example here. Oh, actually right here. Let's say I need to bring more labors to Stone Sky Foothills because we're not working at 100% capacity. I can take some of these labors from this region, right? Because we have way too many. We're doubling our workload, so we don't need that much. So I've taken out 100, and I can bring them up to this faction, right, or this province. So now we're at 705, and then to process this, we have to accept and pay a certain amount of fee. So in our case, 200 gold. So ask you, do you want to do it? Boom. So now we're at 100% efficiency with Stone Sky Foothills. So then you can also, so you don't have to have new intake of labor come in certain provinces. So like this is my factory provinces, and factory provinces don't really use labor. So you see how it says 000. So I don't need any labors in there, so I don't have to, when I win battles, the labor being automatically sent in those provinces. So I just take off the check mark. That's it, simple as that. And then those, like, if I need provinces to be receiving labors, I can just activate where they will automatically keep bringing resource or labors. Now, like in this province, for example, in Ancient Giant Lands, I mean, I'm way over 400 in this province, so technically I could just take it off so it doesn't take any more labors for now, and use those labors in other provinces. And then if once I reach that 400, I might reactivate it again so I can receive them again. Now, another cool thing. Once in a while, you can spend your labors in this province on certain buffs. So like this one says you receive 10 influence for 200 labor costs, right? And then you can spend it on money. Same thing, 200 for 1500 treasure, and then 200 for 10 control in the province. So you'll find, I thought I'll be spending more of them on my money, which I do spend a lot, but most of the time I actually found myself spending on control because as you notice, all of my control in provinces is pretty bad, and you actually kind of want to, surprisingly, with Chaos Dwarfs, kind of keep it control on the lower, because you actually get um, sometimes certain, I guess I don't have any positive ones, so it's hard to show you the debuffs, but you get specific debuffs if you're way too much in the green. So you kind of want to keep it balanced. What else? There's nothing really else in this window. Pretty simple. So let's see. Let's take a look at now another big thing with Chaos Dwarfs is Tower of Czar. So this is where you're gonna spend all of your influence points. It's kind of pretty important part of Chaos campaign. So the way it works is you have levels of the tower, right? You have level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. So you start off here tier 1, and the other 3 will be locked, right? And so this is basically like kind of like a faction buffs, right? So you spend here, I think it starts usually 150 to take a seat, right? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seats taken in the first district, right, in tier 1. And you know, it's simple as like this one is casualty replenishment, wins a magic power reserve per turn, and this one is really good, raw material 100% per turn, which actually I always recommend if you guys want to take any seat in a tier 1, take this. And then there's another one over here which is taken by one of my allies, is producing armaments per turn. Very good stuff. So simple as that. And then once every tier, or yeah, every table kind of gets filled up, like it doesn't matter even if it's not your faction in there, we get a buff, which, like in this case, for example, raw materials output plus 5% and armament output plus 5%. Then the sorcery district, we get the research 10%, right? And then military district immediately causes wall breaches when besieged. Cool. And actually on the right side, you can see all my buffs at the moment from just these tiers, right? Then tier 2. Tier 2 will be more expensive, right? I actually lost a couple seats here, sadly. There's some really good deep buffs in here. Yeah, so in tier 2, the price obviously goes up, and it goes, the same thing goes up with the next tier, and then tier above. So then there's another unique thing. Once you get to the 4th tier, this is where you can confederate the our faction of Chaos Dwarfs. So you have the Servants of Conclave, you have this Disciples of Hashut, then the Legion of Asgard. Haven't gotten to this yet in either of my campaigns, but I've seen our people do it. It's pretty simple, you know. You just select whichever one you do, and you could confederate it automatically. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I very like this new form of advance. It's kind of like advancement towards the late game, right? It's pretty cool. I wish more factions had similar stuff. Some of these buffs are a little bit questionable, but overall, most of them are pretty good. Like this one just gives you, like, you can summon Kadai, which is kind of been okay, considering Kadais are very weak so far in my opinion. Some abilities are pretty cool, like this ability is really good against like armor infantry. So is this. Yeah, pretty cool. Dig it. Next fin, let's talk about the Forge, the Hell Forge. So this is a kind of similar to what Beastmen have after their rework, right? They can upgrade the amount of units they can have, right? And it works exactly the same way. If you want to upgrade the amount of units you want to have, you just click right here, boom, and let's do this one, yeah. So now I can have 2 of these units, right? Infernal Guard, Fireglaves. Um, yeah, pretty simple. Very similar to Beastman. Now, our fin though that Hellforge has is the manufacturing. Now this is interesting because this is where you can buff your units. So let's take a melee for example, right? Right now I have an active buff, which is a Rune of Sundering, right? So it enables Sundering attacks, armor minus 30, right? It costs per unit using armaments. Yeah, armaments. Um, so, which it kind of calculates all of them in your current active armies. So right now I have a total of 15 infantry units, and they're all shown over here that fall under that buff, right? Uh, and that means I'm spending 180 total of armaments per turn. So you got to be very careful with this. You can obviously get some more buffs, right, and apply them, and you can beef up some of these units really well, but it's going to be obvious at the cost of resources. Then same thing goes for missile, flying monsters, war machines, and etc. So gotta be careful. I mean, obviously, if you have a lot of armaments, it's pretty easy. Like I have 470 plus. I can definitely add more buffs, but right now I'm kind of trying to get as many labors with the convoys, so I'm using that for specifically labor. So that's it. That's pretty much it with economy, kind of going over that a little bit. Overall, Chaos are pretty good. Chaos Dwarfs are pretty good. So far, I find myself having only kind of difficult time fighting factions that are how should I say? They're kind of anything that has a lot of mobile units, like monsters or cavalry. Sometimes it's really hard to defend your backline with them. There's not many anti-large other than the centaurs units on the dwarf roster, so you just got to be careful with that, honestly. But you could get for all of your melee units like the anti what was it called, like a charge reflection, so I guess that could work very well against charges. But then you do have blunderbusses and like warglaves that do a lot of damage, so if you can catch those big monsters out and just shoot them from the distance, you can just melt some of these units. What else? Artillery is pretty solid. No complaints about artillery with these guys. Pretty solid. I wouldn't say it's the best in the game, but it does the job. I find myself loving the magma cannon. It's probably the best, and then this the Ice Forge Legion Renown cannon, Hell cannon. It's great. Does so much damage. Same with this one. The Soul Domination is pretty good too. I don't know how I feel about the rest, like the tanks they have. There, it's okay. This is a mortar though. This is a cool unit. yeah, so that's it. Just thought I'd do a quick little guide for those who's struggling um, with some of the campaign. Now I'm playing Nazgov right now, and he's definitely probably the hardest campaign so far of the dwarves. So I would recommend starting with these guys. um, they're definitely a lot easier. Ostrogoth, his campaign is the easiest, and then these two factions are probably the hardest. So, with that said, thank you guys. So I'll jump on and continue my stream. And yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know if you want more guides. But I thought I'd just do a quick little guide on Chaos Dwarfs. Alright, thank you very much. Take care.